Cheech here with Fly Fish Food. You all know the Medusa Green Drake. It's an awesome fly. We're going to show you how to turn it into a PMD now.
Dude, that's a big brown, bro.
Alright, so you saw the Medusa Green Drake. It's an awesome fly. A lot of thought went into that one. And a lot of times we get comments on our videos like, could you do that in this hatch or that hatch? So if you ever see that while we're tying, please let us know. We love the challenge. I love the challenge. That's how I come up with a lot of flies. But somebody was asking, could we do this in a PMD flavor? And actually we were doing that while we were testing the Green Drake version as well. Check it out. There are a few little changes we'll show you, but this is how to modify from one fly to another, and we'll show you a few little tips that we did there. The Medusa Green Drake is a cool pattern, purposely built to kind of sit halfway down in the water, and the top half very, very buoyant. On the Green Drake, there's not a lot of drastic change in color because it kind of goes from brownish, blackish to dark olive when it hatches. And the PMD's a little bit more drastic. I'll just show you one of these right now. This is one I was just playing with, but the PMD, as you can see, has a brown body as a nymph, and when it crawls out of its nymphal shuck, it's yellow. So there's a big contrast there. That said, not all PMDs are yellow. Some of them are pink, and some of them are more grayish in the wing. So whatever PMD or whatever fly you're going to match, make it work for your home water. This is one of the huge advantages of tying your own flies. Because if you don't tie your own flies, you have to wait for one of the companies to come out with like the perfect shade of yellow or pink or tan that you're looking for in your dry fly. So you can just build it however you want. And we're just going to show you a few of the little hacks that I'm going to do as I build this Medusa Green Drake as a PMD. Now we're gonna dead drift this just like a Green Drake would be dead drifted. So we don't need to take really into consideration anything to make it like skate or skitter or anything like that. It's designed just to be dead drifted, so we'll tie it very similar to the Green Drake. I'm going to use some yellow nano silk. This is 18-aught thread, and really the thread's not going to show at all on this fly because it's so thin, so you can use almost whatever color you want. I'm going to angle the hook down, and one of the key things here is on these on like a hatch matching dry fly emerger, which means it's an emerger that sits up on the surface versus an emerger that's going through the surface. But a dry fly emerger is going to have part of the fly down in the water and part of the fly out of the water. And if you can build your fly so that it kind of makes that happen every time, your fly will sit really nicely, or you're more likely to catch fish on it. But in order to do that on this one, I'm just going to take my thread to the back, about right there, and I'm going to use a material that absorbs water. I'm going to use marabou. So marabou is usually for streamers. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take off a few tufts. So I'm going to take just a few fibers of marabou, strip off the clumps or the fibers coming off the stem, and just wrap down about to there. And the reason I'm using marabou again is because it absorbs water, and if I just pinch it just right off of the hook, sorry, I'm all fingers, I'm just getting my thumbnail in there about right there, and I'm just going to pull that off. Now, that's a little bit too much. I'm just going to come in here and I can just shorten that by grabbing those and pulling them out. Maybe. More durable stuff than you'd think. All right, so that's our tail. And then another material that's very popular for sinking is pheasant tail. So we're going to build the body out of pheasant tail for this one. On the Medusa Green Drake, I think I used natural pheasant tail on that one as well. But it was a little bit darker colored. This one's a nice kind of lighter brownish color. Not all pheasant tails are created equally. Some are darker than others, but Pheasant tail makes a really nice PMD body. Also on the green drake, the shuck on it was black. So green drakes get really, really dark before they hatch. I mean, PMDs do as well, but I like a brown shuck on this one. So we're just going to tie in our pheasant tail. I've cut the tips off, use a little pinch wrap, and we'll wind that down. As you can see, the nano silk doesn't build up hardly at all. Come back up, and then we're going to tie in just a piece of copper wire. Again, typically not something that you would see on a dry fly if you wanted to keep it super, super buoyant. But again, we want this back half of the fly to hang down in the water. All right, and to add a little bit of durability to this one, super glue. Okay, I like to use my little rotary feature on the purple popsicle to wrap this up. You'll see the pheasant tail change color right there when I get to that black stripe. It looks really cool. Little breakups, little variances in your flies really make it look natural. Like no bug out there is all just one color. Cut that off, and I'm just going to counter wrap this wire to help that pheasant tail be a little more durable, and tie this wire off nice and snug right there. Bend the wire against itself like we've learned so many times before, and then just a little tiny helicopter and it's off. Okay, for the final step of the fly, I'm going to angle it a little bit more aggressively up so that this part of the hook is flat, straight across. For the green drake version, I blended up some sort of grayish, greenish wing. I've taken some wool and I've mixed up some, I think it was light Cahill or light yellow or something like that, and some light tan or light dun. So it comes out like this. Very, very PMD friendly colors here. So the green drake had a really tall wing. We're going to make kind of a tall wing on this one as well, but not quite as aggressive as the green drake. So I'm just going to take this wool that I've pre-blended and try to get a good amount that will look good on a little fly like this. Probably like a little bit less than that. There we go. So it's kind of a point. That's something we can work with. And we'll just tie this in here. Sometimes when you're working with a bigger fly, like the green drake is like a size 10. So when you're tying materials in on a smaller or bigger hook, it doesn't always work. For example, sometimes the pheasant tail is not going to wrap all the way up the hook shank. So as your flies get bigger, you might be fishing a bigger hatch. You might have to substitute or change materials based on the size of the fly. Luckily, this is a 16. The green drake I tied, I think, was a 10. There's a bit of difference there, but nothing groundbreaking that we can't make work with what we got. Okay, I've got a nice pinch right here. I'm going to tie this in, kind of hammer down on that, really tighten it. And then before you trim the back section off, we're going to just tie this into kind of a parachute, but not really, just a few gathering wraps on the bottom. Then we're going to take this back piece and chop it off. Now, the reason for this, and it works with like almost all mayflies, is if you want to shape the wing of a mayfly, they're kind of sailboat shaped, kind of angling forward. Like if you're looking at my bodkin, they kind of angle forward this way and then straight down in the front. So I'm just building this wing so that I can trim it out and shape that wing with my scissors. So I'll try to do that now. There's my straight down, and here's my to the back. There we have a sailboat wing that's maybe too tall for this fly, but you can see how nice that stays up. And the reason why we're using wool is because we can douse this with some Flyagra or some sort of floatant to make a super buoyant fly. All right, so there's our wing on that. All right, so here's one of the biggest changes we're going to have to this fly going from green drake to PMD is the drastic change in body color. So the PMD is going to have a kind of a bright yellow thorax. What is this one called? Pale sulfur yellow. Or if you're from Jersey, call them sulfur. But just never talk to anybody about the spelling of it because it causes fights. Just say the yellow stuff that stinks. All right, so here we go. We're going to put some of that dubbing on there, just a really light touch of it. There we go. There's a nice little noodle, and we're going to kind of jam some of that in on this side of the wing. Under here, I'm going to add some more dub. I'm probably out of sequence on this. There's a bunch of different ways you can put this on. You can put the dubbing on before you trim the wing, before you tie in the wing. But I talked to the guy who made the fly up. He said it's all right. So we're building up a bit of a thorax here, and this dubbing actually is pre-treated with dry fly stuff. I mean, there are quite a few of them out there, but this is the Fulling Mill tactical dry fly dub. And so it's got a little bit of floaty properties. Once I get that built, I'm just going to take my thread and wrap that around that post 2 or 3 times, or maybe once, and just let it hang down. Let's see. I'm going to go back and fix this wing a little bit. Almost cut my dang fly off. All right. So here's one of those things that's very important. You can see this is a piece of CDC, and I'm going to put both of these colors in for the wing. And if you look at how long this CDC is off the stem, it's way too big for a size 16 fly. So one of the things that I'm going to do for the PMD instead of the green drake is I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut little jagged little kind of bite marks into it. I don't want them to be all the same length. See that? So I'm going to do that on the other side too. And that way you'll have just like a few flyers that kind of get off of there, but it shortens the amount of, it shortens the fibers quite a bit. And you don't have to use the tips of the CDC. It doesn't matter at all. So I'm going to do that to the done one as well. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can go back and touch it up after the fact too. So not a big deal. All right, so once I have those, we have this fancy little hairline feather prepper tool. You just take your feathers and you jam them down in there one on top of the other, just like that. And then we're going to take our scissors and nuke those out of there and grab it. Oh, check it out. It has our logo on it. Oh, yeah, check it out. There you can see it. All right, we're going to grab that CDC clump out of there with our fancy Swiss clamp and cut those little suckers out, or the stems out. So there you have it. You can see the size of the hackle, or the CDC in there. Roughly the same length with just a few kind of flyers. So most dense back here, and you'll see it makes a really cool effect when we put it in a wing. For this, we're going to use this Smayan thread splitter. This is maybe the reason I started tying this fly, because I was just trying to split as many crazy things into thread and put it on flies, and this one came of it. So even though this is 18-aught thread, it will split. So you just take your thread. We have some videos on the Smayan twister, or the Smayan thread splitter, but anyway, you can see I just made a split thread loop, and I'm going to take this CDC that we got out of there and put it in the loop. And see how that's kind of in the center a little bit. I'm going to grab the CDC and pull it. This is easier said than done, especially if you got big old meat hook fingers like me. All right, small tip here also is if you reel in the tip of your bobbin close to your finger like this, it will spin up faster. And before it falls off, I'm just going to give it a spin. All right, it will take a while with this 18-aught thread though, because it is so thin. And if it doesn't spin, just pull on it. Force it to spin. Okay, there we go. There's a nice little CDC hackle. Obviously, we're not going to use it all, but we certainly could. Getting proportions right on a small fly that's being converted from a different hatch is also important. For example, you might want, be used to putting like 5 turns of hackle on a parachute fly when really on a smaller fly you're only going to get 2. You might be, I don't know, used to making like a couple 5-turn whip finishes at the front of your fly. With the smaller fly, you're not going to be able to do that. So just keep in mind that the proportions need to go up and down on pretty much everything. So even though the CDC is the same color and everything, but we could have made it work, but by prepping it to the right size first makes a difference. All right, we're just going to wrap this on the hook now. Cool thing about this one is I just keep spinning around. If any fibers get caught, we're going to get them later. Let's see. There we go. So I'm putting all that in there. And I'm just going to now pull all those up and do a couple tight turns around the base. There you have it. So if I wanted to trim any of those, I just push them up and I can just grab the tips of the feather and preen them up. But anyway, from the bottom view, it's that. So you can see you could make those kind of come up a little more if you want. You could make it more sparse, but at the end of the day, that fish is going to see kind of a pretty clean underbelly, the thorax, the abdomen, and then the mess of the PMD that's just trying to crawl out of there for dear life. So anyway, when you're substituting or changing hatch flies from big to small, small to big, from hatch to hatch, there are quite a few things that need to be taken into consideration. Now is the time that you get to challenge us, okay? Come up with some ideas, put them in the comments of flies that you would like to see morphed into something else, and we'll totally do it. So as long as it's not dumb, like don't tell me to tie like Brigham's Rip and Rooster in thin mint colors. That would suck. Okay, so right? Okay, so what I want you to do is challenge me to kind of morph an existing fly into something else, and we'll see what we can do. Anyway, like and subscribe. The recipe for this one is below in the description. And yeah, we sure appreciate you watching. I guess we should whip finish it, Brig. All right, so use your favorite Mattarelli whip finisher. Hopefully an original from Swenny. And then imagine me slathering that sucker up with whatever head cement you like.